Chapter 17, Hideout by Key. The sun was starting to fall below the treetops, and the air was turning chilly. I stared at the money in disbelief. I'd never seen so much in my life. The first thing I thought of was Officer Stockton telling me about the robbery at the fish market. "Where do you get that money?" I asked. "Slade gave it to me." "Where'd he get it?" "I don't know. I guess he earned it." "What kind of boat does he have?" "He doesn't have a boat." "Well, how did he get out here before?" "His friend Jesse brought him. Jesse has a boat." "What kind?" "A pontoon boat." I took a deep breath of relief. "What?" Davy said. "Nothing," I said. "But I can't take all this. I can't take any of it. I don't need it," he said. I set the bag down and stood up. "There's probably enough there to do whatever you want, Davy." "I don't know how much it is." I fought back the urge to dump the money out and count it. "Take it inside and put it back." "But it's yours now." I frowned. "Fine. Then go hide it for me." Davy got the bag and went inside with it. "I'll get a fire put together," I said, "so we have it to light when it gets dark. I've got some dry shop towels to burn, but I don't have time to get the lumber." "I've got something," he called from inside. I was putting the towels into the grill when he returned and held out pieces of a broken chair I remembered seeing in the corner. They looked dry enough. "That'll work," I said, taking them from him. "I've never had anybody spend the night over," he said. "Seriously?" "Dad went to jail when I was 7, he said. I arranged the wood over the towels and thought about it. "That's a long time to be in jail for a fight." "How long is it usually?" "I don't know," I said. "But that's like..." "How old are you?" 12, he said. "Yeah, he was in jail for 5 years. That's pretty long." Davy laughed for the first time that I could remember. It was a funny, choppy laugh. "I'm not stupid," he said. I laughed with him and shut the grill. "No, I don't think you're stupid, just stubborn," Davy smiled. "You want to go in your boat?" he asked. "You haven't taken me in your boat." "Sure," I said. "We can go for a quick ride before it gets dark. And you can go swimming and clean up." Davy sat on the front bench seat while I motored out of Ware Bayou and into the water. When I sped up, he turned and looked at me with his wide grin. He started to stand, and I shouted over the engine noise for him to sit down. He did, and looked back at me again. He was laughing. Then he faced forward and held his hands up in the air, feeling the wind on his palms. "You've never been in a boat before?" I shouted. He shook his head. "Nothing fast, just that canoe," he said. "This is awesome." "This one's really not that fast either," I said. "Dad's is way faster." Davy looked back at me, the grin still frozen on his face. I went about a quarter mile and circled back. When we were at the creek again, I slowed in the middle and shut off the motor. The sun was low in the treetops, and the swamp was quiet and still, settled into a pre-dusk lull. I took my t-shirt off and tossed it in the seat. "You want to swim here?" Davy asked. I studied the water and the marsh grass at the edges, looking for alligators. I didn't think they'd attack us, but I was still uneasy with all the big ones I'd seen in the area. "Sure," I said. Davy pulled his shirt off and removed his glasses and wrapped them in it. Then he set a bundle on the seat and leaped in. He surfaced and grabbed the side of Bream Chaser and hung there, watching me. "You coming?" he asked. I slipped over the side and hung next to him. Even though I was nervous about alligators and whatever else might be in the dark depths under my feet, the water was cool and refreshing. I looked at Davy and laughed nervously. His face was still streaked with dirt and grime. I reached into Bream Chaser and grabbed my shirt and gave it to him. "Get it wet and rub your face," I said. "I can use my shirt," he said, "the one you gave me." "It's fine, use mine, it'll dry." Davy wet the shirt and started rubbing his face. In a moment, He put the shirt back in the bring chaser, and when he turned to me, he looked much better. You still looking for that dead body? He asked. I wish you wouldn't talk about that while we're swimming. Davy laughed his funny laugh. Not really, I said. It's not a big deal, he said. You can tell there's nobody in there, like their spirit got sucked away. You've seen one? Davy nodded. My mom, in the coffin. Jeez. It's not scary like you think, he said. Well, if I had one float up beside me right now with crabs all over it, I'd be scared. Davy laughed again. Yeah, he said, me too. But I've been working on being brave, I said. Then I've got an idea, he said. Davy made up a game to test our bravery. We took turns swimming 10 feet down to the bottom of the creek and bringing up handfuls of mud to prove we'd been down there. The cool, murky depths were terrifying and thrilling at the same time. The mud was as black and stinky and gooey as tar. Then out of nowhere, Davy got excited and tossed a clump of it at me, and it splattered on my forehead. I looked at him in disbelief, muck dripping down my face. I could tell by his expression he didn't know if I was going to get mad or laugh. I laughed, but mostly because he looked so funny and nervous about what he'd done. Then I lobbed some back at him, and that started the mud war. We spent nearly a half hour ambushing each other on different sides of the boat until we were coated with the stinky stuff and laughed until our sides hurt. After the war, we washed the mud from our hair and faces and climbed back into the bring chaser. When we finally started back to the camp, the sun had set behind the trees and the creek was dark and with cool shadow. The swamp was filled with the chatter of frogs and cicadas and crickets anticipating the darkness. 2 alligators glided slowly across the surface, hunting for fish. I pulled the switch for the navigation lights and studied the waterway ahead. As we motored slowly through the cool, cheeping dusk, I sensed that now I was getting myself deeper into a kind of trouble that was a lot more complicated than a few lies. I was convinced that Davy really had told me all he knew, but somehow he seemed more strange and mysterious than ever.